40 minutes, and the man in the gray jacket still hadn't bought a thing. Not a coffee, not a candy bar. He'd pick one up, hold it, set it back exactly where it had been. And every time I looked up, he wasn't looking at what was in his hands. He was looking at me in the ceiling mirror over the counter. He had walked in at 12:45 on a Wednesday. By 1:15, he was still circling the same 3 aisles. I had worked that overnight register a long time, and I had never, honestly, watched a customer move like that. My dad bought that Stripes off the East Side back in '88, and I grew up behind that counter. 52 now, 11 years on this register myself. Greyhound passengers, truckers off I-35, late shift hospital workers. At 1 in the morning, I know who walks through that door, usually by name. This one, I didn't know. He looked 35, light jeans, gray jacket, baseball cap turned backwards. He walked the chip aisle 3 times slowly. He stopped at the soda cooler. He opened it, took out nothing, closed it. He walked to the candy display. He picked up a king-size Snickers, held it for 30 seconds, put it back exactly where he had picked it up from. He repeated this with 3 other candy bars and a granola bar. I had been at this station 11 years. The visual rhythm of a customer is something I read without thinking about it. I mean, you watch people walk in at 1 in the morning long enough, you can tell in 5 seconds whether they're buying a 6-pack and Cheetos for a bus ride or whether something else is going on. People who are about to buy something move with a different posture than people who are stalling. He was stalling. He was looking at the candy. He was also looking through the convenience store ceiling mirrors that we installed in 2018 at the register where I was standing. I told myself I was being paranoid. 11 years behind that counter, and I already knew I wasn't. The Spurs game had been on the AM radio behind the counter earlier that night. I usually keep it on through the late shift because it keeps me sharp without being distracting. The game had ended around 11:45. I had switched the dial to the HEB Tejano station that runs overnight. The man at the candy aisle had walked into that music. I should say, what I mean is, the music had probably been registering for him the whole time he was casing the aisles, but I had not thought to take note of that until the detective asked weeks later what the ambient conditions in the store had been. At 1:15, the lot was empty. No other customers, no cars at the pumps. He had timed it. He came to the register. He had a folding knife in his right hand by the time he reached the counter. He pointed at the cash drawer. He said calmly, to open the register. I have a script for this. I had been trained on it 12 years ago when I started corporate Stripes training, mandated quarterly refreshers. The script is, comply with visible cash only. Do not engage. Do not resist. Hit the silent alarm under the counter. The silent alarm is a black button on the underside of the counter at the cashier's right hand. It pings San Antonio PD dispatch directly. I had pressed it twice in 11 years. Never for actual robberies. Once for a drunk customer who refused to leave. Once for an electrical fire alarm. I pressed it without looking down. I opened the register with my left hand. I lifted only the top tray, about $400. The store's cash reserves are in a floor safe, one I cannot open without my manager's code. The corporate script says do not disclose the existence of the floor safe to a robber, under any circumstance. I put the top tray on the counter. He grabbed the tray. He started moving toward the door. I'll lay out the next 90 seconds the same way the police walked me through them twice. I did not move. I did not say anything. I did not move my hands. I watched him walk to the door. He pushed the door open with his shoulder. He started walking fast across the parking lot toward Pine Street. Halfway across the lot, a San Antonio PD cruiser pulled into the lot from Pine, a routine drive-by patrol that the silent alarm had escalated to immediate intercept. The cruiser was on him in 9 seconds. He dropped the tray. He raised his hands. He had 2 prior armed robberies, both convenience stores, the last one only 8 months behind him. The DA charged him as a habitual offender and pushed hard for it because the 3 nights of casing proved this wasn't impulse. It was rehearsed. He got 7 years. The $400 he had grabbed was recovered fully. The tray had hit the asphalt and the bills were paper-clipped in stacks of 20. Stripes Corporate gave me a week of paid leave, plus an additional cash bonus for following protocol. My daughter installed 2 new home cameras the weekend I came back. My wife paid for the medication I was on through the 5 months of therapy that followed. The investigation revealed that the suspect had cased the station on 3 prior nights before the Wednesday. He had come in once each on the prior Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. He had bought small items, a single soda, a single bag of chips, gum, at the register on each prior visit. He had been studying me. He had been confirming the times I worked and confirming that no Stripes regional manager came through during the late hours. The Wednesday had been the night he had judged I would be alone and that the alarm response time would be predictable. The corporate analyst who reviewed the case told me over the phone the week after he was sentenced. This pattern of pre-visit casing was something the chain was now including in its quarterly training material. I quit the night shift 2 months after. My nephew took it over. He is 28, ex-Army. He carries a personal alarm pendant on a lanyard, and the family bought him a non-lethal training session at a Berkshire County Security Academy. I do the morning shift now, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m. Different rhythm, different customers. What I haven't stopped picturing is the candy bar pattern. He had been looking at me through the ceiling mirrors while pretending to look at candy. The script my corporate training gave me had been written by people who had never been at the counter at 1:15 in the morning. But the script had worked. The people who wrote it had thought about exactly this moment.
The tan sedan pulled in behind me and stopped at an angle, close enough that I couldn't have backed out if I'd tried. The driver didn't get out to pump gas. He just sat there. 40 seconds. It was 11:50 at night. I'd just come off a 12-hour ER shift, pumped 6 at the Shell on Florin in South Sacramento, the one place near the hospital with bright lights, and an attendant who actually came out of his booth. That was the whole reason I stopped there. I was about to find out how much it mattered. I'm Helena, 33. ER nurse, 9 years at the same hospital. Most nights I'd swing through the In-N-Out near the hospital on the drive home, but by 11:50 it was already closed, so the gas station was the only stop left. My doors lock automatically the second I shift into park. That habit isn't mine originally. It's Marisol's, a colleague who got carjacked at a Sacramento gas station 3 years back. Someone pointed out a flat tire to her. She stepped out to check it, and the flat turned out to be the setup. I thought about Marisol on every shift since. I thought about her on the quiet nights too, not just the bad ones. I was thinking about her now, watching that sedan in my mirror. I did not get out to pump. I sat with my hands in my lap and watched. I had a dash cam on the Honda. I'd installed it months back on a friend's advice and mostly forgotten about it. It runs the whole time the car is on, saving the last hour. It was running now. That one detail would end up mattering more than anything else I did that night. The driver of the sedan got out. He was mid-30s, dark hoodie, hands in front pocket. He walked toward my driver's side window. He looked at the pump first. I had not pumped yet. The pump was still on its handle. He looked at me through the window. He gestured for me to roll down the window. I did not roll down the window. I pressed the door lock toggle even though the doors were already locked. I wanted the visual confirmation in my own peripheral. I started the engine. The dashcam ping confirmed startup. I put my hand on the horn. He stepped closer to the window. He said, through the glass, that I had hit his car earlier in the parking lot at the supermarket up the road. The thing is, I had not been to a supermarket. I had come directly from the hospital staff lot, the staff parking deck on Stockton, exit through the southwest gate, 3 turns to Florin. I looked at him without responding. He said it again. He said I needed to step out and look at the damage on his sedan. Honestly, my first instinct was to want to verify it. People who work in healthcare have a reflex toward cooperation when somebody claims a problem in front of them. I had to override the reflex. I leaned on the horn flat. The Shell attendant came out of the booth at a fast walk. He was a man in his 50s named Carlos, who I knew by face from a year of stops. He was carrying his cell phone, already calling somebody. I could tell from his posture. He called out from 20 feet away. He asked the man at my window what was happening. The man at my window backed up 2 steps from my door. Carlos kept walking until he was within 6 feet of the sedan driver. He said, on his cell phone, his location to dispatch. Sacramento County Sheriff Dispatch. The sedan driver walked fast back to his car. He got in. He reversed out of the parking spot, bad angle, narrowly missing the gas pump bollard. He pulled out onto Florin and turned right. I stayed in my car. Carlos stayed at the pump until the sedan was out of the gas station lot. He then came to my window. I rolled it down. He asked me if I was okay. I said yes. He gave me his phone. He had been on with the sheriff's dispatcher for the past 90 seconds. The dispatcher asked me to describe the sedan, the driver, and the direction of travel. I did. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. 4 days later, Sacramento PD called me to come in to identify a photograph. The sedan had been picked up by plate camera on its way out of the gas station lot. Carlos had captured the plate clearly. The driver was a man with 3 prior felony convictions, including 2 armed robberies and an attempted carjacking on a different gas station 2 counties over 4 years earlier. There was a knife in the sedan when they arrested him. My dashcam had caught all of it. The approach, the gesture at my window, the lie about a supermarket I'd never set foot in. It put him away for 8 years. Sacramento PD walked me through the suspect's prior pattern during the second statement-taking interview. He had been operating a recognized scheme: pull behind a single-occupant vehicle at a 24-hour gas station, claim a fake supermarket lot accident, demand the driver step out to inspect the damage, and then either rob the driver or attempt a carjacking. He had successfully run the scheme at least 4 times across the prior 18 months in 3 different counties before mine. None of the prior victims had been physically injured because they had complied with stepping out. All 4 had been robbed of wallet, phone, and in 2 cases, their car. The Sacramento PD detective broke the scheme down for me carefully. He said the reason this scheme worked was that most people, when accused of a fender bender they did not remember, default to wanting to cooperate and resolve it. The script gets people out of their cars without escalation. He said that Carlos coming out of the booth had been the variable the suspect had not engineered around. He had assumed Carlos would stay inside. I sold the Civic 6 weeks later. I traded it for a different make in a different color. I switched my post-shift gas stop to a different Shell 3 miles farther, but with double the camera coverage. I started seeing a therapist for 6 months. I still see Carlos. He still works the booth. He told me the next time I saw him. He had also been on the phone with his nephew earlier that night. The nephew was a Sacramento sheriff's deputy. That was the reason he had been able to ping dispatch in under 15 seconds. He had been at the right phone call at the right time. He had not realized what he was watching when he had come out. He had walked out the booth because the angle of the sedan had not looked right. He had not had a framework for what he was responding to. He had just gone.
He came around the back of my car on the passenger side and tried the door handle. 3 minutes earlier, he had walked up out of the dark edge of the lot and asked me for change for gas. I told him, honestly, I did not have cash. He thanked me and walked away, and I believed him. It was 2 a.m. at the Texaco off Highway 84 in Dothan, Alabama. 14 hours into a lift shift, midnight to noon rotation. And I had just turned my back to rinse my windshield at the squeegee station next to the pump. I'll call myself Ronan. The driving was supposed to be a 6-month bridge after my restaurant closed during the pandemic, back when I still called myself a line cook between gigs. 2 years later, I was 29 and still at it. The Texaco off Highway 84 was my overnight stop. Bright pumps, a working attendant booth, the one the Lyft driver's Slack channel swore by. I'd pull in with my Roll Tide sticker catching the pump lights. Closest thing to a college degree I've got. The man who had asked for change had walked away in the direction of a darker corner of the lot, the back of the convenience store where the dumpsters are. I had not turned around to watch him go. I had assumed he had walked away. I had clicked the pump trigger on auto, walked over to the squeegee station 3 feet from the pump, and started cleaning my windshield. My Lyft app was open on the dash. The driver's side door was closed but unlocked because I had been climbing in and out for the gas and the granola bar I had grabbed from the passenger seat. The man came around the back of my Lyft vehicle on the passenger side. He tried the passenger door handle. The handle did not yield. Lyft drivers keep passenger doors locked by default after drop-off, and I had not yet unlocked it because I was not picking up a fare yet. He pulled the handle. He pulled it again. Harder. I dropped the squeegee. I moved toward the driver's side door, which was 4 steps away. He saw me see him. He stepped onto the passenger side running board and reached his arm through the half-cracked passenger window. The window had been down 2 inches for ventilation. He grabbed for the inside door handle. I'm slowing this part down because I've replayed it many times. I have replayed it slowed down in my head probably 1,000 times. The dash cam was running. My Lyft app emergency button is on the home screen of the app. A single tap puts you in instant phone contact with Lyft's safety team while also pinging the local PD with your live GPS location. I had not used it in 2 years of driving. The thing is, I had practiced tapping it during the onboarding tutorial. They make you do a fake tap during the driver training video. The muscle memory from the tutorial was what made it happen fast. I tapped it. The man's arm was in my passenger window. His hand was on the inside handle. The handle clicked. The door was about to release. I yelled. I yelled loud enough that the Texaco attendant inside the booth heard it from across the lot. I yelled at the man to back off my car. He did not back off. I yelled again. I picked up the squeegee from the asphalt and held it out as a barrier. His arm pulled back through the window. The window cracked at the point where his arm had been forced through. The glass had snapped where he was wrenching it. A piece of the broken glass cut my left hand as I grabbed at the squeegee. He climbed off the running board. He started running toward the dumpsters at the back of the lot. The Texaco attendant came out of the booth carrying, I learned later, a legally registered firearm. Alabama is an open carry state, and the attendant was a 58-year-old man named Mr. Robinson, whose son had been a Marine. Mr. Robinson did not draw the firearm. He stood in front of the booth visible from across the lot, shouted across the lot at the man running toward the dumpsters that the police were on the way. Dothan PD arrived in 4 minutes. The Lyft emergency button had pinged them in real time. They came in from the north end of the lot. The man saw the cruiser before he reached the dumpsters and reversed direction toward the highway. A second cruiser intercepted at the Highway 84 on-ramp. The man's name and record were given to me at the precinct the next day. He was 40 years old. He had a prior felony conviction for attempted robbery from 2022. He had been out of state prison 14 months. He had a vehicle parked behind a closed muffler shop 2 blocks from the Texaco. The vehicle had been registered to a different identity, but his fingerprints were on the steering wheel. The vehicle contained in the back seat a roll of duct tape, a folded blue tarp, and a folding knife. The DA filed 6 counts in a single indictment. The lead charge was attempted kidnapping in the 1st degree. A jury convicted him 10 months later. 13 years. I had 9 stitches on my left hand, 5 weeks of physical therapy for a tendon strain, 11 months of weekly therapy. I sold the Lyft vehicle 2 months after. The broken window had been repaired, but the car had become impossible for me to sit in at night. I bought a different car for daytime commercial driving, and I switched to a courier service, one that runs only daytime delivery routes within Metro Dothan. I do not drive after dark professionally anymore. Lyft's platform updated the emergency button to also include a silent alarm with a live agent voice line, which the company rolled out 3 months after my case based on the investigation findings. The dashcam footage was used in driver safety training sessions across the southeast region of the Lyft contractor network. Mr. Robinson and I are still in touch. I bring him coffee at the booth when I drive past the Texaco on day routes. The DA's office gave me one more piece of information that I had asked about. The vehicle the suspect had parked at the closed muffler shop 2 blocks from the Texaco, that vehicle had been used before. In 2 prior Lyft driver robbery attempts in adjacent counties in the prior 6 months. Neither prior driver had been physically harmed because both had pulled away during the approach phase rather than continuing to pump gas. The DA said the suspect had been refining the approach across these prior attempts. The change for gas test had been added to his sequence after the second attempt failed. The prior driver had immediately driven away when approached cold. What I keep replaying in my head is the change for gas approach. It had been a test. He had not needed change. He had been measuring whether I would step away from my vehicle and how long. The first interaction had told him I was alone, that I would walk to the squeegee station, and that I left the passenger window cracked for ventilation. The second interaction had been the attempt. The whole sequence had been 4 minutes. Mr. Robinson had been across the lot the entire time, inside the booth, and had not seen the change for gas approach. He had only come out when he heard me yell. He told me later that he had not been looking at the pumps. The booth's view of the pumps was partially blocked by a newspaper rack. The man with the knife had known the geometry of the booth's blind spot. He had picked the pump that was inside the blind spot for the approach. The geometry had been the choice. Lyft used my dash cam to rewrite their overnight driver rules a few months later. I never went back to read them. I drive daytime courier routes now. I haven't worked past 2 a.m. since the trial, and I'm not going to. What stays with me isn't the knife or the tarp they found in his car. It's that the whole thing took 4 minutes, and for the first 3 of them, I thought a stranger was just asking me for change.